What is this translucent orange cube I found on the ground outside a vacation rental? It's about 7/8 of an inch wide and weighs 6 grams. Inside, there are plastic pillars at each corner with 8 tiny magnetic cubes nested between them. It has no opening and doesn't glow under blacklight. Any ideas? This is a magnetic fidget cube toy. The design uses 8 small neodymium magnets arranged around an internal plastic frame, allowing the cube to snap and connect to other identical cubes in various configurations. They're sold in sets, often marketed as sensory or stress relief toys for both kids and adults. The translucent casing lets you see the internal structure while protecting the magnets from chipping. If you search for clear cube magnet toy online, you'll find the exact product. They're cheap, which is probably why one ended up abandoned outside a rental property. I was digging the garden borders of my terraced Victorian-era house in Birmingham, UK, about a foot deep, when I uncovered this. It's a clear glass bottle filled with a mystery liquid, and it was completely encased on all sides by glazed green tiles. There are no markings on the bottle. Any ideas what this might be and why it would be buried like this? After raising the case with West Midlands Police out of concern it could be a self-igniting phosphorus grenade known as the SIP number 76 used during World War II, ammunition technicians examined the find. Based on the way the liquid settled inside the bottle, they determined it was not explosive and posed no danger. Their conclusion was that the bottle most likely contains some form of old alcohol. As for the green tile casing, it was probably a makeshift method of storage or simply construction debris that settled around the bottle over the decades. What is this small blinking circuit board mounted inside the humidity fan above the toilet in a hotel bathroom? If it's just a humidity sensor, why would it need a blinking light and a cutout in the vent grill? Does anyone know what it is? This is an occupancy sensor, most likely a passive infrared detector. It works by reading the infrared heat signature in the room. When a person enters, their body heat changes the pattern the sensor sees, which triggers the fan or lights to turn on automatically. The cutout in the vent gives the sensor a clear line of sight, and the blinking LED simply indicates that it's powered and detecting motion. Hotels use these to save energy by running ventilation only when the bathroom is in use. And to put your mind at ease, a hidden camera would require a lens and would be far less obvious than this. My mom found this in a box and thought it might be one of my dad's old parts. It's a steel shaft just over 6 inches long with a brass cap on one end held by an O-ring with 4 small holes drilled in it. There's a brass screw with a rubber washer, and the other end has gear teeth or splines. Could it be welding or automotive? What you have is an industrial valve stem and seat assembly. The splined end connects to an actuator or hand wheel that rotates the stem. The brass cap with the O-ring forms the sealing surface called the seat, which presses against the valve body to stop fluid flow. The 4 small holes allow controlled flow when the valve is partially open, and the rubber washer under the brass screw provides a secondary seal. These are commonly found in heavy plumbing, hydraulic systems, and process control equipment. I found this beautiful little box, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. It's sterling silver, about 4 by 3 inches, decorated with gemstones, and the inside tests as gold. There are no maker's marks anywhere. Does anyone know what it is? This is known as a silver gilt jeweled casket, a decorative keepsake box most likely produced in continental Europe during the late 19th or early 20th century. The gold interior is actually silver gilt, a technique where the inside is plated with a thin layer of gold to prevent tarnish and showcase contents like jewelry. Cabochon-cut gemstones were set directly into the silver lid as ornamentation. The lack of hallmarks suggests it may be from a region with looser marking laws, or the marks have worn off. Pieces like these have sold at auction houses such as Invaluable for substantial sums. What is this rusted metal cabinet seen in West Kirby in the UK? The door is sealed shut, cables have been cut, and it sits next to an old bowling green. It's so degraded there are no visible maker's marks. Is it Victorian? This object is known as a Lucy box, sometimes called a tram collar or tramway signal box. Manufactured by W. Lucy and Company of Oxford, founded in 1812, these cast iron cabinets became common across British streets in the late Victorian and Edwardian eras. Inside was a telephone or telegraph mechanism that conductors and inspectors used to signal the depot or request a tram. The thick cast iron housing protected the delicate electrical equipment from weather and vandalism. Most fell out of use when tram networks were dismantled in the mid-20th century, but the housings were so durable that many still stand today, sealed shut and forgotten. I was digging in my backyard, and a couple feet down I found this heavy object. It's a bit bigger than a brick and contains thin wires wrapped into a ball, surrounded by a rusted metal casing. There's also some flaking black plastic on it. Does anyone know what it is? This is a small electrical transformer, likely from a low-voltage system like a doorbell, landscape lighting, or an old appliance. Here's how it works. The wires wrapped into that ball shape are actually two separate copper coils called the primary and secondary windings, wound around an iron core. When alternating current flows through the primary coil, it creates a changing magnetic field in the iron, which induces a different voltage in the secondary coil. By changing the ratio of windings between the two coils, you can step the voltage up or down. The black plastic was the original insulating housing, and the metal casing protected the core. Buried transformers like this are commonly found in older yards where outdoor lighting was once installed. I have this small antique metal ornament, roughly 3 inches by 1 inch, featuring 2 griffin figures. It's stamped with the mark of the Springfield, Massachusetts Silver Plate Company. I'm trying to figure out what it was actually used for. A paperweight? A card holder? Does anyone know? This is a pin rest from a Victorian-era inkstand. The Springfield Silver Plate Company operated in Massachusetts during the late 1800s, producing affordable, silver-plated desk accessories during the writing boom that followed mass literacy. Here's how it functioned. The piece would have originally been mounted on a larger ornamental base that held 1 or 2 glass inkwells. The griffin figures served as decorative supports, and the curved channel between them cradled dip pens horizontally, keeping wet nibs off the desk surface between strokes. The uneven curve on the bottom suggests it was pried off its base at some point, which is common since the soft pewter or white metal cores under silver plating bent easily. Complete inkstands from this maker are now collectible. What is this strange ceramic assembly? It has a small cup that swings freely on a 2-pronged arm, and the whole thing looks almost mechanical despite being made of clay. Does anyone know what it represents? This object is a ceramic sculpture of a piston. The artist did an impressive job capturing the mechanics. In a real engine, a piston moves up and down inside a cylinder, while the 2-pronged arm, called the connecting rod, links it to the crankshaft. The swinging cup represents the piston head, which would normally be pushed by combustion gases to convert pressure into rotational motion. It's a clever artistic tribute to one of the most important inventions in mechanical engineering. I found this poking out of the dirt on a recently cleared woodland track in the rural south of UK. It's heavy iron, about 17 centimeters long and 12.5 centimeters high, weighing 1.4 kilograms. It has a hollow back section with 2 aligned holes of different sizes. My neighbor thought it was a plow point. Can anyone tell me more? What you found is a plow sock from a horse-drawn plow, likely dating to the early 1800s. The sock is the pointed iron piece that fits over the front of the wooden plow beam, taking the brunt of the wear as it cuts into the soil. The 2 holes you noticed were used to pin it onto the wooden share with iron bolts, allowing farmers to replace just the sock when it wore down, rather than rebuilding the whole plow. Before the rise of factory-made steel plows in the mid-1800s, blacksmiths forged these locally, which is why yours has no maker's mark. We were renovating and pulled this 58.5-inch carved, painted wood piece out of the wall. It has holes drilled through it, and only one side was visible before we removed it. Does anyone have any idea what this is, or what it might have been used for? This is most likely a salvaged furniture spindle, possibly from a chair back, a staircase baluster, or a decorative bedpost. Builders in the 19th and early 20th centuries commonly reused old furniture parts as cheap framing or blocking inside walls when a piece broke beyond repair. The holes you see were originally mortise joints, where horizontal rails or stretchers would have been glued and pegged into the spindle. Based on the turned profile and painted finish, this style was popular from roughly 1850 to 1910. Your local historical society or museum could likely date it more precisely from the lathe patterns. What is this flat-pack wooden object made from two interlocking plywood panels? It stands about 40 by 70 centimeters tall, has long rectangular slots on the sides, a circular hole on one panel, and an angled top edge. There's no branding anywhere on it. Does anyone know what it is? It's a flat-pack portable shelf or lap desk. The design relies entirely on friction-fit joinery, meaning the two plywood panels slot together without any screws or glue. When properly oriented, the long rectangular cutouts function as carrying handles, while the curved edges on the opposite side act as feet to keep it stable on a flat surface. The circular hole allows electrical cords or charging cables to pass through, which is a strong clue that it was designed to hold a lamp, monitor, or laptop. Designs like this became popular with the rise of minimalist furniture brands in the 2010s because they ship flat and assemble in seconds. What is this heavy, spout-shaped piece of metal I dug up while detecting in southwest Scotland? It looks a bit like a barrel tap key, but the back is scooped out and there's no opening running all the way through, so it can't really be a spout. Does anyone know what it is? This is part of a barrel spigot, specifically the metal valve component that would have been mated to a wooden tap or faucet. The scooped-out groove on the back is the key to how it functioned. When the spigot was rotated so the groove aligned with the barrel's opening, liquid could flow through the channel and out into a waiting cup or jug. Rotating it away from the opening sealed the barrel shut. These mechanisms were standard equipment in taverns, breweries, and households across Britain from the medieval period through the 19th century, before modern threaded taps replaced them. What is this plastic paddle-like thing with serrated teeth along one side? It's lightweight, flat, and doesn't seem sharp enough to cut anything. Does anyone know what it is? It's a cleaning scraper designed for microfiber mop pads. These often come packaged with Swiffer-style mops and their generic knockoffs. The serrated edge functions like a comb, raking through the dense microfiber fibers to dislodge trapped hair, dust bunnies, and dried debris before you toss the pad in the wash. Without a tool like this, the fibers tend to mat together and lose their grabbing power over time. It's one of those accessories that gets separated from the original mop set and ends up looking completely mysterious on its own. I found this in my garage rafters, left behind by past tenants. It's about 5 by 2 feet, the legs are 3 feet tall, and it's clearly missing 2 more legs and something that used to sit on top. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is the upper section of a residential or commercial bar. Those 2 sets of small, parallel metal bars are stemware racks. You slide the stem of a wine or martini glass between them so the glass hangs upside down, keeping dust out and saving shelf space. The brass detailing would have matched a brass footrail running along the bottom of the bar, a classic design feature from the early 20th century onward. With the missing top and legs restored, this would have been the back bar display where bottles and glassware were stored. I just bought a new pair of Nike trail shoes, and inside the box I found this strange band with a plastic lock and a key ring. It's too small for an armband, but it fits awkwardly over my wrist. There's also a tiny whistle built into the clip. Does anyone know what this is? This is a Nike Trail Safety key ring, included as a bonus accessory with certain trail running shoes. It's designed to clip onto a running belt, hydration pack, or backpack strap, not to be worn on the wrist. The built-in whistle functions as an emergency signal, capable of producing a sound over 100 decibels to alert rescuers or scare off wildlife if you get lost or injured on a trail. The plastic housing is often made with glow-in-the-dark material, making it easy to locate in low light. It's a small but practical piece of safety gear that trail runners can use to carry a house key while keeping a whistle within instant reach. I found this in a barn on our family farm. It's about 1.5 inches thick and nearly 5 inches across, and it feels like the same gritty material as a bench grinder wheel. The farm only ever had cattle, pigs, and hay, so I have no idea where this came from. Does anyone know what it is? This is a terrazzo grinding stone, also called a Frankfurt abrasive block. It's one of 3 stones that mount onto the rotating head of a terrazzo or concrete floor polishing machine. As the machine spins, the stones grind down the surface of poured terrazzo or stone floors, smoothing the aggregate and producing that polished finish you see in old schools, banks, and commercial buildings. The bonded abrasive material wears down over time, and the stones are replaced as a set. It likely ended up in the barn after being used on a farmhouse floor or borrowed for a local job decades ago. I found this in a wastewater lab. It's about 1.5 inches tall and 2.5 inches across, made of clear plastic with a red line mark on the semicircle top. The bottom looks like a stopper with a 90-degree notch cut out, and there's a bent metal clip designed to spring closed. I can't find any vessel in the lab it matches. What is this? This is a membrane cap tool for a dissolved oxygen probe, commonly used with meters from manufacturers like YSI or Hach. Dissolved oxygen probes have a delicate membrane stretched over the sensor tip that allows oxygen to diffuse through to the electrode inside. This tool helps install or align a new membrane cap on the probe, while the bent metal spring clip holds the assembly together during the replacement procedure. The red line serves as an alignment or fill reference, indicating where the electrolyte solution should reach when refilling the probe. Wastewater labs rely on these probes to measure oxygen levels in aeration tanks, which is critical for keeping the bacteria that treat sewage alive. An employee found this on the office floor and thinks it fell out of the ceiling vent. It's plastic, about 1.5 inches in diameter, with around 32 teeth like some kind of pinion gear, and it has a stubby little spring attached. What on earth is this? This is an internal spool from a correction tape dispenser, or possibly a glue dot dispenser. Inside those handheld whiteout rollers, two geared spools work together. One reel feeds out fresh correction film, while the other winds up the used backing tape. The teeth you see mesh with a drive gear in the plastic housing, and the small spring maintains tension so the tape stays taut as you roll it across paper. When the dispenser is empty or broken, these spools often pop loose. It almost certainly didn't fall from the vent, it just rolled across the floor from someone's desk. What is this metal object found in a gym? It's about 2 feet long, and the bottom unscrews. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a golf swing trainer, sometimes called a weighted swing stick or tempo trainer. The shaft is deliberately heavier than a real golf club to build the specific muscles used in a swing, and the unscrewing bottom allows the user to add or remove internal weights to adjust resistance. As the golfer swings, the extra mass forces a slower, more deliberate motion that trains proper tempo, rotation, and follow-through. Many models also produce an audible swoosh at the point of maximum acceleration, giving instant feedback on where the swing is generating the most speed. They're a common sight in gym corners and pro shops alike. I found this box hidden under a cover, connecting some old cooling pipes in an industrial facility near a river in Germany. It has a heavy metal housing, a chain sprocket on top, a warning label, and a type plate stamped with the Siemens Schuckert logo. What is this thing? It's most likely an explosion-proof water level sensor. The chain sprocket on top connects to a float sitting inside the pipe or tank, and as the water level rises or falls, the float moves the chain, rotating the sprocket. Inside the sealed housing, the rotation drives a mechanism that converts position into an electrical signal. The heavy metal casing is the key feature. It's rated explosion-proof, meaning if flammable gas like methane from river sediment ignites inside, the housing contains the blast and prevents it from spreading. Siemens Schuckert produced this style of industrial equipment heavily from the early to mid-1900s. We moved into this house 3 years ago, and the previous owners left this small silver face of a girl screwed onto the back of a spare room door. She's about 2 by 2 inches, her eyes are closed, and her mouth is open in a little O shape. The top is pushed out away from the door. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a decorative double coat hook, with the lower hook broken off. Originally, this piece would have had 2 curved metal arms extending outward from the bottom of the face, designed to hold coats, hats, scarves, or bags. The reason the top is angled away from the door is to provide clearance so items can hang freely without scraping the wood. The girl's open mouth is purely ornamental, part of an Art Nouveau or whimsical figural design tradition that was popular in European hardware from the early 1900s onward. The lightweight feel and peeling finish suggest it's cast from pot metal or zinc alloy with a silver tone plating. a common manufacturing method for affordable decorative hardware. I just moved into a new place with roommates and found this little rubber man in the back of a kitchen cabinet, mixed in with cooking utensils. He's about 2 inches tall, really light, and his top half is thick rubber, while his pants are thin and detachable. He can't stand up, he's made to lie down. Is this secretly a cooking tool? This is a novelty tea infuser, commonly sold under names like Mr. T. The detachable thin rubber pants are actually the infuser basket, made from food-safe silicone with tiny perforations. You fill the lower half with loose-leaf tea, reattach it to the upper body, then hang the little man over the rim of your mug so his legs dangle into the hot water to steep. The design was popularized by Fred & Friends, a novelty housewares company in the late 2000s. They became a popular gag gift, which is probably how this one ended up forgotten in a cabinet. What is this clip thing I found in my office? It's made of black plastic with a metal hook on the underside, and the plastic feels textured, almost like it's shaped for finger placement. Does anyone know what it is? It's a violin chin rest. This accessory clamps onto the body of a violin or viola near the tailpiece, using that metal hook as part of a bracket system that tightens against the instrument. The textured, contoured plastic surface is shaped to fit comfortably under the player's jaw, helping them hold the instrument securely without using their hands. Chin rests were invented around 1820 by German composer Louis Spohr, and they revolutionized violin technique by freeing the left hand to shift positions more easily. What is this odd little tool I found in a kitchen drawer? It looks like a measuring spoon on one end, but the other end has a small, stiff brush attached. It seems too small to be useful for cleaning dishes. Does anyone know what it is? This is a combination coffee scoop and grinder brush. The scoop end is calibrated to measure the correct amount of coffee grounds for your pot, typically holding about 2 tablespoons, which is the standard ratio for 1 cup of brewed coffee. The brush end is designed to sweep out the residual grounds left inside your coffee grinder after use. Coffee oils and fine particles tend to cling to the burrs and chamber, and the stiff bristles dislodge them without damaging the grinder. It's a simple 2-in-1 tool favored by home baristas who grind their own beans fresh. What is this strange little object I found at a thrift store? It has a small removable wire piece, and inside there's an image of a paint can and a woman. Everyone I've shown it to is completely stumped. Does anyone know what it is? This is an old-school photo keychain, a novelty item that was especially popular from the 1950s through the 1970s. The removable wire piece is actually the key ring, which threads through a small loop on the casing. The image inside is a tiny printed advertisement or souvenir photo, often used as promotional giveaways by businesses, in this case likely a paint company using a pinup-style model as their mascot. Some versions even doubled as miniature viewers, where you'd hold it up to the light to see the picture more clearly. They're considered collectible advertising memorabilia today. I bought this leather-bound briefcase at a thrift shop, and I can't figure out what it was made for. It has metal bracketing painted white, riveted through to the outside of the case, and rubber feet on one side so it can sit upright in display mode. There's no branding, but it's too well made to be homemade. I also found a loose pin inside. Does anyone know what it is? This is a carrying and display case for a portable sphygmomanometer, the medical device used to measure blood pressure. The white painted brackets are shaped to hold the mercury column or aneroid gauge securely in place, while the rubber feet allow the case to stand upright on a desk so a doctor or nurse could use the device without removing it. The loose pin you found likely belonged to the cuff assembly or the gauge mounting hardware. These cases were standard issue for traveling physicians and house call doctors from the early to mid-20th century, before lightweight plastic kits became the norm. What is this cast metal wheel I found on an old property? The disc is about 10 inches in diameter, but it's not grooved for a belt or cord. There are no obvious attachment points for any mechanism. Does anyone know what it is? This is the pail shelf from a cream separator, a piece of dairy equipment that was common on farms from the late 1800s through the mid-1900s. Cream separators use centrifugal force to spin whole milk at high speed, causing the lighter butterfat to separate from the heavier skim milk. 2 spouts on the machine direct the cream and skim milk into separate containers. This wheel-shaped shelf bolted onto the side of the separator and held the collection pail in the correct position under the spout. Brands like De Laval and Sharples produced these by the millions before refrigeration and creameries made home separation obsolete. I've had this bundle of wood strips sitting around for ages. They might be palm wood, and some of the strips are smooth and dark on one side, almost like something was written on them. Does anyone know what it is? What you have is a palm leaf manuscript, and the markings appear to be Kannada or Telugu scripture. These manuscripts were the primary writing medium across South India and Southeast Asia for over 2,000 years, dating back to at least the 5th century BCE. The leaves come from the palmyra or talipot palm, and they were cured, smoked, and polished before use. Scribes used a sharp metal stylus to etch letters into the surface, then rub soot or turmeric into the grooves to make the text visible. Each strip would be bound together with a cord through a central hole, forming a complete text on subjects ranging from religious verses to medicine and astronomy. While traveling in Japan, I noticed this fluorescent light fixture had a small bulb attached to the outside of it. When I pulled the string, the small bulb glowed steadily for about 1 to 2 seconds. Then the main tube flickered on while the small bulb went dark. I have never seen this in the United States. What is it for? This is a glow starter, also known as a fluorescent tube starter. It performs a critical job in older fluorescent fixtures called preheat starting. Inside the small bulb is a bimetallic strip in a neon-filled glass envelope. When you switch on the light, current flows through the starter, heating the bimetallic contact until it bends and closes the circuit. This sends current through the filaments at each end of the fluorescent tube, preheating them. After about a second, the strip cools and snaps open, causing a voltage spike from the ballast that ignites the gas inside the tube. In the United States, most fixtures use rapid start or electronic ballasts that handle this process internally, so the starter is hidden or eliminated entirely. What is this round metal disc holding what look like spent rimfire blanks? It almost looks like ammunition, but the casings are arranged in a circle on a flat metal carrier. Does anyone recognize it? These are Ramset 25 caliber disc loads used in powder-actuated fastening tools. Each disc holds 10 small blank cartridges arranged around the perimeter, and the disc rotates inside the tool to feed a fresh load with each shot. When fired, the powder charge drives a hardened steel nail directly into concrete, steel, or masonry, eliminating the need to pre-drill holes. The loads are color-coded by power level, ranging from gray for light fastening up to purple for the heaviest charges. Construction workers have used these tools since the 1950s for tasks like anchoring framing to concrete slabs. I picked this up at a garage clearance here in the UK. It's some kind of metal frame with a spring mechanism that seems to hold it in place. I just want to know if it's something worth keeping. Does anyone recognize it? What you have is the top border or trim piece from a washing machine carcass. This is the structural frame that sits along the upper edge of the appliance, hidden under the top panel. The spring you see acts as a tension clip, holding the frame securely against the side walls of the chassis during the violent spin cycles, which can reach over 1,400 rotations per minute. Without parts like this, the entire cabinet would rattle apart. On its own, it has no real value unless you're repairing that exact model, so this one is likely destined for the scrap metal bin. I found this heavy gauge wire part under my fridge, and I have no idea what it is. It looks like a spring or some kind of retainer. I've been keeping it, hoping I'd figure out where it belongs, but no luck. I put a pepper shaker next to it for scale. Any ideas? This is a bottle or can retainer bar from the inside of a refrigerator door. The thick wire is bent into a shape that clips into 2 small sockets on the side walls of a door bin. Once installed, it acts as a horizontal bar that holds tall bottles, wine, or 2-liter sodas in place so they don't tip over every time you open the door. The spring tension in the wire is what keeps it locked into its mounting holes. If your fridge has empty sockets along the inside of a door shelf, that's exactly where this snaps back in. What is this small, quarter-sized metallic circle found in a hospital? It has curved prongs on one side and a flat plate on the other. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is a knockout cover for an electrical box. When electricians install metal junction boxes, the boxes come with pre-stamped removable discs called knockouts. Once a knockout is punched out to run wiring or conduit, any unused openings must be sealed for safety to prevent debris, fingers, or sparks from escaping. This cover snaps into the empty hole, with the curved prongs gripping the inside of the box and the flat plate sealing the outside. They're required by electrical codes in commercial buildings like hospitals, which is exactly why one might end up loose on the floor. I bought this heavy metal disc at a thrift store in Minnesota. It's two-sided in gold and purple pink, and the edge is inscribed with the words M3 12 of 25. Does anyone know what it is? It's a poker card guard, also called a card protector. Players place these heavy discs on top of their hole cards during a hand to signal to the dealer that their cards are still live and shouldn't be mucked or swept away accidentally. They became hugely popular during the poker boom in the early 2000s, especially after the World Series of Poker broadcasts on ESPN. The inscription 12 of 25 indicates this is part of a limited edition collector's run, and serious players often carry custom or numbered guards as lucky charms. The heavy weight is intentional, since a light chip could be knocked off the cards too easily. I found this while cleaning a friend's apartment. It's lightweight, made of black, durable metal, and shaped a bit like a clothing hanger. Does anyone know what it is? It's the handle frame from a lint roller, specifically the larger floor or upholstery-sized version. These rollers use a replaceable tube of adhesive paper that wraps around a central spindle, and the metal frame you found holds that spindle in place while giving you something rigid to push and pull. The lightweight construction is intentional, since the user needs to glide it easily across carpets, sofas, or pet bedding. Once all the sticky sheets are used up, the cardboard core is discarded and a new refill tube slides onto the same frame, which is why the handle can outlast dozens of refills and end up looking like a standalone mystery object. We just bought a house that came with a pool table, and this blue, ridged, cylindrical object was sitting on the cue rack. It's about 3 inches long and unscrews into 2 separate pieces. Maybe some kind of bridge attachment? Does anyone know what it is? These are pool cue joint protectors. When you break down a 2-piece cue for storage or transport, the metal threads at the joint are left exposed and can easily get damaged or clogged with debris. One protector screws onto the threaded pin on the butt end, and the matching piece screws into the shaft end, sealing both halves. They aren't universal, since cue makers use different thread sizes like 5/16 by 14, 5/16 by 18, or radial pins, so you need a set matched to your specific cue. Serious players consider them essential for protecting an investment that can run hundreds of dollars. I found this buried in my backyard after noticing a metal loop sticking up through the grass. It's solid steel, heavily rusted, with an eye-of-the-needle head that has spiral grooves cut into it. The rod is bent and extends more than a foot underground. I dug down a foot and still haven't reached the bottom. Does anyone know what it is? This is an old guy wire anchor, also called a screw anchor or earth anchor. The spiral grooves you see on the head are actually the remains of the helical plate or auger flighting that allowed it to be screwed deep into the soil, similar to a giant corkscrew. Once installed, the eye at the top accepts a steel guy wire used to stabilize tall structures like utility poles, antenna masts, or tent rigging. The bent rod isn't damage, it's leftover tension, or the anchor being pulled sideways by the load it once held. These have been used since the late 1800s, and many still sit forgotten in yards where old poles or structures once stood. I bought an old toy collection, and these 2 plastic items came with it. They're about 12 inches long, each with a rubber ball on the end and stamped LPA Plastic Canada 1976. That company mostly made boat parts, but I can't figure out what these are. Does anyone know what they are? These are kayak end bumpers, also called grab handles or end toggles. They were standard equipment on whitewater and recreational kayaks from the 1970s, including models like the River Runner 5. The rubber ball serves 2 purposes. It acts as a shock absorber to protect the kayak's bow and stern from impact against rocks or docks, and it gives rescuers or paddlers something solid to grip when carrying the boat or pulling a swimmer to shore. LPA Plastic of Canada was a major supplier of these injection-molded components during the boom in recreational paddling, which is why the 1976 date lines up perfectly with that era. I found this in the cellar of my 140-year-old house after it flooded. It's about 1 inch across, with a thin wooden shell on the outside, and dense red rubbery material inside. There are mouse teeth marks on it, and after drying out, it split open on its own. Does anyone know what it is? This is an antique golf ball, most likely a gutta percha ball, commonly called a gutty. These were the standard golf ball from around 1848 until the early 1900s. The outer shell isn't actually wood, it's gutta percha, a hard natural latex made from the sap of Malaysian sapodilla trees, which dries to a tough wood-like texture. The red rubbery core suggests this is a later Haskell-style ball, patented by Coburn Haskell in 1898, which wrapped rubber thread around a soft core for greater distance. The age of your house lines up perfectly with this transition period in golf ball technology, and prolonged moisture caused the materials to separate, as you saw. What is this metal rod, 36.5 centimeters long, where each section spins independently and is a different shade of gold or silver? It has some real weight to it and tapers to thin, round ends. Does anyone recognize it? What you found is a curtain rod salesman's sample, also called a finish demonstration piece. Retailers and interior designers use these to show customers the various metal finishes a particular curtain rod model is available in. Things like polished brass, brushed nickel, antique gold, and satin chrome. Each rotating section is a real production sample, machined to the actual rod diameter so clients can feel the weight and see how light reflects off each finish. These were especially common in home decor showrooms before online shopping made digital swatches the standard. There's white debris appearing everywhere in my house, and I can't figure out where it's coming from. It almost looks like shredded paper or fake snow. The only materials nearby are wood or plastic, and none of them are degrading. There's no styrofoam in the area either. Does anyone know what this is? What you're looking at is called frass, and it's a sign of carpenter ants. Unlike termites, carpenter ants don't eat wood, they excavate it to build nesting galleries. As they chew through the wood and any insulation in their path, they push the shavings, along with dead ants and other debris, out of small openings called kick-out holes. The result is this papery, sawdust-like pile. Carpenter ants prefer wood that's already been softened by moisture, so finding frass usually means there's a hidden leak or damp spot in the structure. Pest professionals follow the frass trail back to locate the main nest. What is this strange section of plastic grid fencing connecting 2 longer runs of metal chain link fence? You can see solar panels in the background. Why would someone deliberately break up a perfectly good metal fence with plastic? This is a non-conductive isolation section, commonly used at solar farms and electrical substations. Metal chain link fencing can conduct stray voltage, and over long distances it can also act as a path for ground currents from nearby high-voltage equipment. By inserting a plastic gap, engineers electrically isolate one section of fence from another. This prevents dangerous voltage from traveling along the entire perimeter if a fault occurs, and it stops the fence from interfering with grounding systems for the solar array. I noticed this chair in a NICU family waiting room had little black plastic feet that actually rotate when you push the chair. Why would a hospital chair have spinning feet? These are called wall saver glides. They're a standard option on healthcare and institutional furniture designed for rooms where chairs frequently bump against walls. The glides rotate freely, so when the back of the chair contacts the wall, the plastic foot turns and slides instead of scuffing or scraping the paint. This protects the wall from damage and reduces maintenance costs in high-traffic spaces like waiting rooms, classrooms, and offices. They also make the chairs slightly easier to push back from a table without lifting. I saw a guy in a national park known for bird watching sitting next to his car with a large pole and pulley attached to the back, leading to a black box. He also had another box on the ground next to him with a bunch of wires running everywhere. Does anyone know what he was doing? What you saw is most likely a portable antenna setup for a ham radio operator. The pole raises a wire antenna high into the air to improve signal range, while the pulley allows the operator to hoist and lower it easily. The black box and tangle of wires would be the radio transceiver, battery power supply, and tuning equipment. This hobby is called Parks on the Air, where licensed amateur radio enthusiasts make contacts from public lands. The second item you noticed was simply a plastic sawhorse flipped on its end, probably used as a stand for the equipment. I found these small, hard plastic yellow clip-like things in a box from my childhood. They're about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and I have 6 of them total. I recognize them, but I can't remember what they're from. Does anyone know what they are? These are connector pieces from a K'NEX construction set. K'NEX was invented by Joel Glickman in 1992 and quickly became one of the most popular building toys in America. Each colored connector has a specific number of slots that determine the angles at which rods can attach, allowing builders to create complex geometric structures. Your 6 yellow pieces, when joined together through their center holes using small green pegs, form a sphere shape. They were a core component in countless roller coaster and Ferris wheel kits sold throughout the 1990s and 2000s. I saw this odd-looking contraption at a school. It seems to be weather-related, with 3 round cups at the top that spin with the wind, and bird spikes on a funnel-looking section. Does anyone know what it is? It's a Davis weather station with an integrated rain gauge, likely the Vantage Pro model. It measures temperature, humidity, wind speed, wind direction, and precipitation all in one unit. The 3 spinning cups are the anemometer, which measures wind speed by rotating faster as wind pressure increases. The funnel collects rainfall, with the spikes preventing birds from interfering with the readings. The small panel on the side is a solar cell that powers the electronics, which wirelessly transmit data to a console indoors, often connected to the internet so the school can share live weather data. I found this polycarbonate funnel-like thing left by the previous owner of my house. It was tucked in the cabinet under the sink, and a match is shown for scale. Does anyone know what it is? This object is the liquid soap reservoir from a self-dispensing kitchen sink brush or sponge. The original tool would have included a handle, a valve mechanism, and a scrubbing head, with this clear chamber holding dish soap. When you press a button or squeeze the handle, the valve releases soap directly into the bristles as you scrub. It's missing the valve and other components, which is why it looks incomplete. These dispensing brushes became popular in the early 2000s for cutting down on the back and forth between sponge and soap bottle. What is this flat blue neoprene strap rolled up tight, about 1 inch wide? It feels stretchy, and there are no buckles or fasteners on it. Does anyone know what it is? This is a medical tourniquet, the kind used when placing an IV line or drawing blood. It works on a simple mechanical principle. A nurse or phlebotomist wraps it around your upper arm and tucks the end under itself, applying just enough pressure to restrict venous return without cutting off arterial flow. This causes the veins in your forearm to swell and become visible, making it much easier to insert a needle accurately. Neoprene models like this one are reusable, latex-free, and have largely replaced the older rubber strap versions in modern clinics. I found this in a bag with drywall screws. It's 2 small plastic pieces that came packaged together, and they don't look like anchors or any hardware I recognize. Does anyone know what it is? These pieces aren't related to the drywall screws at all. They're an adapter mount from a full-face snorkeling mask designed to hold an action camera like a GoPro on top of the mask. The 2 parts clip together to form a standard camera mounting bracket, allowing a snorkeler to record hands-free underwater footage of whatever they're looking at. The pieces likely got mixed into the screw bag by accident during storage. Full-face snorkel masks became hugely popular around 2015, and most mid-range models ship with this exact style of clip-on camera mount. What is this small post screwed into the top of an interior door frame? I was touring a home in the USA built in 2020, and several bedroom doors had this installed right on the part of the frame that already stops the door. Does anyone know what it is? This is a child-proof door lock, sometimes called a top-of-door lock or a flip lock. It works by mechanical leverage. A small arm or latch swings down over the top edge of the door, blocking it from opening. Because the post is mounted high on the frame, well out of reach of small children, kids can't disengage it, but any adult can easily flip it open. Builders often install these on bedroom, garage, or basement doors in homes with young children to prevent wandering, especially at night. I found this small black rubber ring sitting on my windshield wiper this morning. It's stretchy, fits around 2 of my fingers, and I've been fidgeting with it all day. It doesn't look like it came from my car. What is this thing? This is a vape tank protector ring, sometimes called a vape band. These silicone rings are slipped around the glass tank of a vaping device to cushion it against drops and bumps. The rubber absorbs impact and helps prevent the glass from cracking if the vape is dropped on a hard surface. They're produced by the millions as cheap accessories, often included for free with tank purchases, which is why they show up in odd places like parking lots and windshields. Someone likely lost theirs nearby and the wind carried it onto your wiper. I found this small, flexible bracelet-like item next to a house with kids around 9 years old. It closes by itself somehow, and my cat absolutely loves playing with it. I can't figure out what it is. Any thoughts? It's a toy bracelet from a Kinder Surprise egg, specifically from the pink line marketed toward girls. Kinder Surprise eggs were created by Italian company Ferrero in 1974 and contain a small plastic capsule with a toy inside. This particular bracelet is designed to snap onto the wrist using its built-in flexible closure, and it usually comes with a decorative charm that clicks into the center slot. These toys are produced in massive numbers, with new collectible series released every few months, which is why they turn up randomly in driveways and gardens wherever children live. I saw this at a flea market, and it caught my eye. It almost looks like a green roulette wheel with little spots that could hold ping pong balls. It seems like some kind of raffle device, but I genuinely have no idea how it works. Any guesses? This is a green stamps dispenser used by retailers to distribute S&H green stamps to customers. The Sperry and Hutchinson Company launched this rewards program in 1896, and it became hugely popular in American supermarkets and gas stations through the 1960s. Customers received stamps based on how much they spent, then pasted them into booklets to redeem for household goods from a catalog. The black rings on this device worked just like an old rotary dial telephone. The clerk would rotate them to set the value, and the machine would dispense the correct number of stamps. By the 1980s, the program had nearly vanished, making these dispensers a popular collector's item today. What are these small wooden blocks, about the size of a deck of cards, screwed into my basement ceiling? There are several of them scattered around in different spots. Does anyone know what they are? These are simple anti-squeak blocks. They're pieces of scrap wood intentionally screwed into the underside of the subfloor to stop the floor above from squeaking when someone walks on it. Floor squeaks happen when the subfloor flexes and rubs against the joists or nails below. By screwing a solid block tightly against both the joist and the subfloor, the wood is pulled firmly together, eliminating that gap and the friction that causes the noise. It's a classic, low-cost fix used by carpenters and homeowners for over a century, and the scattered placement means someone walked the floor above to locate each problem spot individually. What is this rectangular white device that suddenly appeared on the power line outside my house? It's a box with a ridged white panel attached to it, and it definitely wasn't there when I moved in. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a small cell base station. Unlike traditional cell towers that broadcast over miles, small cells are low-power nodes designed to handle 5G signals over short distances, typically 250 meters or less. The ridged white panel is the antenna array, which transmits and receives high-frequency millimeter wave signals. Carriers mount these on utility poles and streetlights in residential areas because 5G's higher frequencies struggle to penetrate walls and travel long distances, so dense networks of small cells are needed to deliver the promised speeds. What is this speaker or horn-looking thing mounted on the side of a house? It's attached to the soffit about 7 to 8 inches in diameter and looks like a loudspeaker. I'm not sure what it's made of or what it does. Any ideas? It's a home security alarm siren, sometimes called a sounder. These are mounted high on exterior walls under the soffit, so they're both highly audible and difficult to tamper with. When the security system is triggered, a piezoelectric driver inside vibrates rapidly to produce a sound output of around 100 to 120 decibels, loud enough to alert neighbors and scare off intruders. Despite looking professional, most of these units are unmonitored, meaning they only make noise locally and don't automatically contact police or a security company. The plastic housing is weather-resistant to handle years of outdoor exposure. We just bought a house and I found this in the kitchen. It's a long metal rod with a spring and a hook at the top, but it seems to be missing something at the bottom. Does anyone know what it is? This is an iron cord holder, also known as an iron cord minder. Originally, it had a clamp at the bottom that would attach to the side of an ironing board. The long rod extends upward, and the spring-loaded hook at the top holds the electrical cord of a clothing iron suspended in the air. By keeping the cord lifted off the fabric, it prevents the heavy cord from dragging across freshly pressed clothes or getting tangled while you work. These became popular in mid-20th century households when ironing was a daily chore, and they remain useful for anyone doing extensive ironing today. I live in Cambridge in the UK, and there's this small concrete block in my garden with the letters H and B engraved on it. It has sloped edges and sits slightly raised above the ground. My neighbor has one too. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a highway boundary marker. The H stands for highway, and the B stands for boundary. These concrete posts are placed by local authorities in the United Kingdom to mark the legal limit of the public right-of-way, separating land owned or maintained by the highway authority from private property. Surveyors install them at key points along roads to prevent disputes over where the public road ends and private land begins. Even when set inside a garden, the marker indicates that the strip of land between it and the road technically falls under highway jurisdiction. They've been used for over a century and are still manufactured today by specialist concrete suppliers. What is this little black box with a green button or window mounted on the lid of a public rubbish bin? It looks like a small electronic device, but there's no obvious label explaining what it does. This is a smart waste sensor, most likely a Matter brand unit used by Australian councils. The device uses ultrasonic or infrared technology to measure the fill level inside the bin in real time. It then transmits that data wirelessly to the local council's waste management system. This allows collection trucks to only empty bins that are actually full, cutting fuel costs and emissions. The same company also makes sensors for stormwater pits to detect blockages before they cause flooding. I found this tied to the outside of my radiator at home. It's a small piece of metal with a magnet attached, hanging on a string, and the magnet sticks right to the radiator. Is it a tool, a fix, or maybe even some kind of superstition charm? It's a radiator bleed key. The square hole in the metal fits onto the bleed valve at the top corner of most hot water radiators. When air gets trapped inside the system, the radiator stops heating evenly, so you insert the key, turn the valve a quarter turn, and let the trapped air hiss out until water appears. The magnet and string are a clever homeowner trick to keep the small key from getting lost, since they're notoriously easy to misplace between heating seasons. I was cleaning out a kitchen drawer and found these strange plastic pieces. There are 3 identical flat pieces bundled together by a cable tie. They don't look like a tool, and they have an odd shape with notches. Does anyone know what they are? These are connector pieces from the IKEA Up-to-Terra pegboard drawer organizer set. The system is designed to keep utensils and small items neatly arranged inside kitchen drawers. Because IKEA sells the pegboards in standard sizes that may not match every drawer, these flat plastic connectors are used to join 3 separate pegboard panels together end to end. They slot into the underside of the boards, creating one continuous, organized surface. Without the boards themselves, the connectors look pretty mysterious, which is why they often get tossed into a junk drawer and forgotten. I was sorting through some antiques and found this silver utensil mixed in with serving pieces. The only markings on it are the words silver plate and Denmark. It has an unusual flat triangular shape that doesn't quite match the other servers. Does anyone know what it is? This is an antique pie server, manufactured in Denmark sometime in the early to mid-20th century. Pie servers have a distinctive, flat, triangular blade designed to slide underneath a slice and support it fully during transfer from dish to plate. The angled edge lets you cut through a crust cleanly, while the broad, flat surface keeps the filling from collapsing. Denmark was a major exporter of silver plate flatware during this era, with companies like Core and Gran and Leglee producing high-quality serving pieces. While not solid silver, well-preserved Danish silver plate servers are still collectible today. I just bought this house, which was built in 1910, and the kitchen looks like it was remodeled in the 1950s or 60s. Above the kitchen door, there's this round, yellowish plastic contraption with a chain hanging off it. When I pull the chain, nothing happens. Does anyone know what it is? This object is known as a Vulcan Autosonic Mark 60 fire alarm. It's a mechanical heat detector that was popular in homes during the mid-20th century, long before electronic smoke alarms became standard. Inside the housing is a spring-powered striker held back by a wax thermostat. When the room temperature reaches 135 degrees Fahrenheit, the wax melts, releasing the spring and ringing a loud bell to warn occupants. The chain you pulled is simply a manual test mechanism. Because it needs no batteries or wiring, units like yours often still function decades later. What is this curved plastic piece with metal at the bottom? It has a bolt running through it, and it's surprisingly heavy for its size. Does anyone know what it is? It's a gutter hook for a ladder. This accessory clamps onto the top rung of an extension ladder, and the curved plastic arm hooks securely over the edge of a roof gutter. By distributing the ladder's weight onto the roof rather than against the gutter itself, it prevents the metal guttering from bending or crushing under pressure. The plastic coating protects the gutter's finish from scratches. Roofers and window cleaners rely on these to work safely at height without damaging the home below. I found this in my flower bed while digging. It's a rusty bolt-like object, around 2.5 feet long, and the house was originally built in the late 1800s. Does anyone know what it is? It's a center bolt from a large industrial spool, the kind used to hold wire, cable, or polytubing for gas and water lines. These spools have wooden or metal flanges on either end, held together by a long threaded rod running through the middle. Once the spool is emptied, crews often use an excavator to crush the wooden flanges for disposal. In this case, the long bolt was likely lost or buried in the dirt instead of being tossed in the dumpster, ending up forgotten in your yard for years. What is that big red thing attached to the neck of this guitar, right near the neck pickup? It looks like it has an inch or two of clearance from the strings, and there appears to be a phone or some kind of device wedged between the red parts. This is from a video by guitarist Troy Grady. Does anyone know what it is? This is a camera mount, specifically designed for filming close-up footage of a guitarist's picking and fretting hand technique. The red clamps grip the body and neck of the guitar without damaging the finish, while the bracket in the middle holds a smartphone or small action camera positioned to capture the strings from an unusual angle. Troy Grady is well known for his Cracking the Code series, which analyzes the mechanics of guitar picking in extreme detail. Mounts like this allow him to film synchronized, stable footage that moves with the instrument, eliminating shake and giving viewers a perfect view of the technique. I found this under the cushions of my hide-to-bed couch, just lying on top of the pull-out mattress. It's about 2 by 1.5 inches, very thin metal, with tines that are slightly bent upward. The finish looks uneven, like it once had adhesive. Does anyone know what it is? This is the electrical connection cover plate from an under-sink garbage disposal unit, typically an InSinkerator or similar brand. On the bottom of the disposal, there's a small access panel where the home's wiring connects to the motor. This thin metal plate snaps over that opening to shield the wire nuts and terminals from moisture and accidental contact. The bent tines are designed to grip the housing and hold the cover in place. How it migrated from under your sink to your couch cushions, however, remains a separate mystery. What is this odd gray cloth strap threaded through a small translucent plastic rectangle? The whole thing measures about 5 by 22 centimeters. Does anyone know what it is? It's an inserted carry handle from retail packaging. These are commonly built into the plastic wrapping of bulky soft goods like bedsheet sets, pillow packs, or comforter bags. The plastic rectangle acts as a reinforcement plate that distributes the weight across the thin packaging film, while the cloth strap gives your hand something comfortable to grip. Once the product is unpacked, the handle is usually discarded, which is why it can look so mysterious when found on its own. I found this strange tool in the south of France. It's a lightweight black plastic device about 12 centimeters long with a very fine needle on one end. It looks like some kind of pump. Does anyone know what it is? This is a pump corkscrew, sometimes called an air pressure wine opener. It was popularized in the 1980s as a novelty alternative to traditional corkscrews. To use it, you push the long, hollow needle straight through the cork, then work the hand pump to inject air into the bottle. As pressure builds inside, the cork is forced upward and out of the neck without any twisting or pulling. While clever, these have largely fallen out of favor because overpressurizing a bottle can be dangerous, and modern lever corkscrews are far more reliable. I found these in a kitchen drawer and have no idea what they're for. They're small plastic tubes with extremely sharp, thin metal needles sticking out. One is labeled 4 millimeters, and the back end of each has a tiny coiled spring. Does anyone know what they are? These are replacement needles for a WDT tool, which stands for Weiss distribution technique. The tool is used by espresso enthusiasts to break up clumps in finely ground coffee inside the portafilter before tamping. By gently stirring the grounds with these fine needles, typically between 0.3 and 0.4 millimeters thick, the barista eliminates channeling and creates an even puck, which leads to a more uniform extraction. The technique was popularized by John Weiss in 2005 and has since become standard practice in specialty coffee. What is this giant gray metal capsule with a pointed top strapped down to a trailer bed at a rest stop in South Carolina? This is an industrial pressure vessel, most likely a fermentation or brewing tank being transported to a facility. These vessels are engineered to hold liquids and gases under controlled pressure, with the rounded ends, called dished heads, designed to distribute stress evenly across the steel shell. The pointed or conical bottom you see is common in brewing tanks because it allows yeast and sediment to settle and be drained from a single low point. Depending on size, these can hold anywhere from a few hundred to tens of thousands of gallons, and they are typically built from stainless steel to resist corrosion and meet sanitary standards for food and beverage production. Which of these items surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. For more unknown items, check out the other videos on our channel. Hit like and subscribe.